I don't have a clue what I'm supposed to do with that. Today, with your help, I'm going to be replacing some rear suspension links on my 2006 Dodge Charger RT. Alright, before you get going too crazy on your suspension, it's a good idea to compare the arms and make sure you're putting the correct arm in the correct place. You can see on my factory one that's still in the car here, as it heads toward the other spot that it links to, it has a dip downward. So for comparison, I'm going to turn these to where they both dip downward so that I'm looking at them from the same perspective. Now my replacement arms that are from a company, TRQ, that I got off of Amazon, Prime Delivery, you know what I'm saying? They're not identical to my OEM arms. These are a little bit different, but I think for how this has a longer sweep right here, that's going to match up with the bottom of this one. So if I were to put this up into place, close to where it will go, I can't quite get it all the way in there. I think that is going to be about correct. Now we got to get this electrical cable out of the way best we can. I'm going to have to grab a flathead screwdriver. There we go. Now with our electrical cable out of the way, we're good to go ahead and loosen these two bolts so that we can replace that arm. So don't ask me why, but these bolts are 18 millimeter on my American Dodge Charger RT. Out here it's easy enough to just use the impact and zip them out, so I'm going to take advantage of that. Except the part where I have a nut spinning on the back. Been looking for an excuse to use the 18 millimeter ratcheting wrench, I guess, so here we go. Oh my gosh. That is so tight. Hopefully I can zip this nut off or at least get it loosened and started. I would say yes. If you don't have an impact gun or some type of power tool, a really strong friend, something like that, it's a good idea to spray these bolts with PB Blaster or at least WD-40. So when you go to work on it, especially if you're in more humid or wet areas, and your suspension may be rusted, you can break these bolts loose without too much issue and get the job done. Same with exhaust. If you spray that stuff like 24 hours in advance, that'll really help out a lot. I don't have a clue how that's going to come out. So that back one does have adjustment. That's what this funny looking washer is for, is when that's on the bolt and you tighten the bolt in a certain spot, this oblong offset hole is going to move that attachment point a few degrees so that you can dial in your alignment. I just found a massive issue though. My bolt is hitting right there, and I don't have any idea what to do to buy myself more room. So here's the situation. This side, my passenger side, is accessible because there's a convenient little dent in the trunk area here that makes that side accessible. The driver's side, however, is totally not accessible. Is undoing this massive subframe. Not completely, but loosening these bolts enough to where it'll allow that bolt to drop out. This was supposed to be an easy project. So far, I just loosened the one closest to the issue and it dropped it a good little bit. However, not quite enough. I need just a little more. So I'm gonna see if I loosen the other side, if that'll buy me enough I moved the rear jack stands forward onto the proper mounts on the other side, and I left the jack under the pumpkin just as added support, just in case. But I did loosen it all the way, and it could sit like this, but why trust it if you don't got to? You know what I mean? Let's see if loosening one more on the same side as the issue will buy me enough. Might try just loosening this just a little more too. See if that gap opens up at all. Okay, it's not gonna give me any more than that. So, see if I hit this side, if it'll open up enough. That didn't buy us anything. All right. See, that wasn't that bad. Now that I finally got it out, this is a camber bolt. You can see the end of that has that flat side, and that's so that this washer can lock on in that corresponding spot. And as you rotate the bolt, it'll change the position of whatever link it's going through, as long as these have something to apply force to and move around. Alrighty then. There we go. These have probably never been replaced. That side's got some super bad dry rot. So this is why I'm replacing these. Help firm up the rear again and provide more stability. And just because I want my car to be pretty good overall anyway. Now I gotta get that bolt back in. Definitely going to need an alignment after this. Needless to say. There it is. It's back in. Good as new. Sort of. Make sure you replace that washer on the other side, or else you won't be able to get your alignment back in tip-top shape. Put this nut on. Make sure you put your electrical back in place where it's supposed to be. Now I'm going to do my other side so that I know those two rear arms are definitely out of the way. And then once the other side's replaced, I think I'm going to tighten up my 4 bolts of my rear subframe. Make sure that's sucked back up all the way and as tight as it needs to be, which they're fairly large body bolts, so you can go pretty tight with them. Once my rear subframe is tucked back up and where it's supposed to be, then I'll tighten the bolts for this rear arm and move on to the remaining 3. All right, our next 2 arms are identical. I confirmed that by comparing the part numbers on the packaging. They go underneath just right here. It's the lowest arm from the bottom of the steering knuckle. However, I have realized another big issue. That bolt has no room to come out, which means I will probably have to try and lower the subframe again. But as you can see, that's like a good 4 inches that I need to clear. So I'm not entirely sure how that one's gonna go, but the other 2 should be relatively straightforward. Well, the sunlight decided to give up on me, so broke out my handy little light here so we can keep going. I think this arm right here I'm gonna save for tomorrow or the next day or something, because that bolt has nowhere to go. It looks awful, to be honest. Probably gonna have to drop the subframe again, but this one and this one should be easy enough. So let's get busy. And we're back. I trapped my trapped my impact. Just leave it there for now. Hopefully my little arm strength will be enough to undo this. Easiest one yet. Ta-da! Well, that is exactly why we're replacing this thing. That's crazy. Dry rotted, completely off center, like bulging. It's super done. There we go. All right, top one done. Here's the one from the driver's side. You can see it's just really dry rotted, busted out, almost completely broke off all the way around. Most suspension links are rated for about 60,000 miles or 100,000 kilometers. But if you're not gonna do them at that interval, at least do them before they look like that. I've got the new one in. It's bolted in on the one side. This side is not quite matching up, so I'm gonna put the jack under this wheel hub and lift it a little bit to compress the shock, and that should help me close the distance. Easier this way. The way the jack is hinging, I just had to put that in line with the direction that I needed this to go, because I needed it to go up and towards this part in order to get my bolt in. So once I had the jack on this side, that leverage was actually helping me instead of working against me. And that simple change made it very easy to put that bolt in. Save those ones where I've got no clearance for another day, because I'm tired. Doesn't get much easier than that though. It's just some new suspension parts, car. No reason to get that excited. Maybe. There it is. Six arms in, 2 to go. This is why you double check your bolts, because I hadn't tightened these at all after putting my subframe back up into place. Round 2, fight. So I think in order to get clearance on this bolt here, I'm gonna loosen the rear subframe bolts all the way until they just have a couple threads. And then I'm gonna try and drop the front ones out all the way, and hopefully that'll drop me down enough to get that bolt out so that I can replace this arm. I've got the front bolts all the way out. The rear ones are just on by a couple threads. It's lowered as much as it can go. And as you can see, still don't quite have the clearance I need. So I might try and drop the rear bolts too and see if that'll buy me enough. But I'm a little hesitant to do that. The only bolt that's in the lower subframe is on the driver rear on the other side. I've got support on the rear diff with the jack stand under here. I've taken that bolt, and this bolt out completely. I've loosened my strut to provide a little bit more space because that was starting to hold me up a little bit. But it looks like if I loosen that bolt, I just might be able to clear that part of the car now. So we're gonna give it a go. Oh my goodness. I got it somehow. All right. Okay, instead of putting those back in the same way, because that's ridiculous, I'm gonna put the bolt in this way so that if I ever have to touch these ever again, it'll be that much easier. I was looking for my bolt, but it's already in here. I'm gonna jack it up a little bit. Tighten my strut back up. There's a part that sticks up into a hole of the body from this strut, so I'm going back and forth to tighten that up in as even as a fashion as I can. So on this side of the car, ended up taking my strut bolts all the way out so that I could get low enough to clear that bolt, but the new arm is in. So now I'm gonna jack up on the rear differential so that I can get my strut back into place, tighten the 4 bolts for my rear subframe, double check everything and get the wheels on. Okay, between a mixture of using the jack and the 1 bolt that I had remaining in, I was able to get the lower subframe, rear subframe lined up and tightened. I put those to about 125 foot-pounds. My struts are tight and back in place. So now that I've got all the new suspension arms on, it's time to go drive it and see how bad this alignment is. Every little improvement on a car is heading in the right direction. So now that's stiffened up, I guess pretty much the only stuff left for suspension is sway bars and coilovers. I test drove it last night to see how those 3 arms were performing that I had already put in, and when I would get on the accelerator a little bit, the rear end would try to kick out to the right. It's almost like my car was like, are we doing donuts? Not today, little car. Not today. Well, on to the next project for today. I'm gonna rotate my sister's van's tires. Wanna come with me? That's all right. I know you got plans. It's all right. I'll see you guys in the next one.